Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We will just hang on for a couple of minutes as we get the attendees start coming in, and then we'll get started. They're starting to come in thick and fast now. We'll just give it another minute and then we'll get stuck in because we don't have a lot of time and we have lots of questions. So just a few more seconds. We're a couple of minutes in now. We've got quite a nice number of people who have joined us, so I will get started. So hello and welcome to everyone joining us for our Automation UK Forum on the future of smart automation. We'd like to thank our panelists for agreeing to join us and talk about this topic. So just a quick piece on the format. We have a series of questions for each of the panelists to answer. This should last about 30 minutes. We will then answer as many questions as we can from the audience. So if you have a question, please go to the Q&A section at the bottom of the Zoom call and add them in there, and then we can manage them nicely for the end of the forum. So all in all, we are aiming for about 45 minutes and we'll get to as many questions as we can. For further information on this topic and anything else you want to ask, please join us at the Automation UK exhibition on the 7th and 8th of May, and that's at the CBS Arena in Coventry. We will send out some links to that after the forum. So now let's get started with the questions for our panelists. So just quickly, we have Rich Fear from Siemens, we have Andy Newbury from Sigmatech, we have Anderson Silva and James Clark from Mer Electronic, and Quinton Weil from Schneider Electric. And what I'd like to do is ask the panelists to give us a quick, brief introduction of themselves just before they answer the first question, and then we can just get on from there. So let's start with Rich. The first question is, how is the current market for smart automation? Are SME manufacturers embracing the smart technology, and in particular AI and OT or operational technology? Over to you, Rich.
Yeah, thanks, Laurie. So Richard Fear, I head up the OEM sales team in the UK. I've worked for Siemens for 27.5 years. So that's kind of my intro. So in terms of that adoption piece, we see many customers at that explore and just start in the early adopter stage. We've got a lot of companies that are evaluating how AI can be useful to them. I think that's the big part, is it's working out where it fits. Most people are aware of what's there, or certainly the emerging market of what's there. It's really now the implementation of that in their tasks. So, for example, Siemens has launched Industrial Copilot. So that allows AI, effectively an AI-powered assistant to support the automation of automation. So delegation of automation tasks. So this can be used for code creation, generation of screens, or also increasing productivity through natural language searching documents. So there's kind of nothing more frustrating when you're trying to find something in a PDF and not remembering exactly how it was phrased or the wording that was used. You can use Industrial Copilot to support you with this. You can also support it for code generation, the structured text. So we've got quite a few customers that are just starting out on this, but it's very much at that kind of early adopter. I wouldn't say anybody's really fully embraced it yet. There's a lot of sort of investigation around the edges.
Thank you. Yes, really interesting. Andy Newbury, over to you. So still.
Yeah, thank you, Laurie. So yeah, my name's Andy Newbury, and I'm the managing director for Sigmatech here in the UK. And yeah, I mean, you know what? It's a really interesting space. I mean, we exclusively work with OEM machine builders, and I would say, talking to the market, the subject of AI is there, but I wouldn't say it's embraced less as it stands at the moment. I think, you know, we as let's say industry experts need to talk and feed and sort of court the market to help them make the right decisions moving forwards. I mean, I think using AI in the automation field is definitely on the agenda. Certainly for Sigmatech, and working, you know, with the technology that is in the field at the moment for code generation or virtual assistants, you know, is definitely on the agenda. So
cool. Thank you very much. So after over to Anderson and James at Murr Electronic.
Yeah, good morning. So my name's James Clark. I'm the National Sales Manager for Murr Electronic in the UK. I've been with the organisation since June. And my colleague here, Anderson.
Hello.
Anderson's been with the organisation for 16 years, primarily in Brazil. But we got the pleasure of bringing him to the UK 2 years ago, and he already speaks better English than most of us in the UK. In terms of AI, I agree with the sentiments of the last two panelists. It's very much in its early infancy, being integrated into the industrial automation, but I think it's very much on the mindsets of engineers, production managers, you know, design engineers right now, you know, where they're looking to enhance efficiency and productivity. Predictive maintenance is a huge one, particularly for ourselves in Murr Electronic, where you know, customers want to be able to manage their infrastructure better. They want to be able to see that if things aren't performing as well as they should be, and you know, in terms of you know, costs, you know, downtime is cost, it's money, and so to be able to recognise when a product is failing in the application, and being able to you know, plan a time to change it, you know, that is a huge sort of advantage. And I think a lot of organisations they're certainly considering, you know, we're having good conversations, but in terms of adapting it, there's bigger things to think about, like of course costs and, you know, changes to the infrastructure.
Cool. So over to Quinton. Sorry, Quinton, you get to be the last one in this question. So
no problem at all. So yeah, I'm Quentin Wiley. I'm from Schneider Electric, as I say, robotics and automation consultant, helping to kind of grow the robotics and automation market within the UK for Schneider. When it comes to the AI piece, I think Schneider across the board are adapting software and software-centric technology quite heavily. I'd say in terms of SMEs in general, I think it's that learning piece about what AI is, what machine learning is, the difference between those and how you can use those. As I think the word that we tend to use internally is like a strategic enabler more so than anything else, and using it to your advantage instead of being confused by it. So as I say, we're embracing it for things like, as the guys at Murr Electronic mentioned, predictive maintenance, looking at risk mitigation for projects. So using AI and machine learning prior to the sales process in order to maybe operate digital twins, as well as like pre-sales emulation, so that we can kind of get rid of the risk before we actually go into the project. And I think that's the case where we're starting to see it with helping those SMEs get on the automation ladder. And as I say, I think that's the way to be looking at it, rather than something that's scary and trying to run before you can walk.
Yeah, no, very true, very true. Thank you. So since you had to go last, let's go back to you, Quinton, for the next question. So, so what do you see as the main barriers for smart automation in manufacturing? What are the stopping blocks at the moment?
Yeah, so as I say, I've come from like a small medium enterprise before I was at Schneider, and I kind of seen, I suppose, the difficulties and the barriers to entry for both end users and OEMs alike. And I think it tends to be the same thing. I think knowledge is a massive thing, about how you can make automation work for you, and what you need in terms of automation. And I suppose getting that start. And as I said earlier about a lot of people sometimes run before they can walk, and they're looking at the all singing, all dancing, and kind of price themselves out of the market or scare themselves off of the automation, instead of kind of speaking to the experts and kind of building that up and building your automation up with that. And another kind of factor that's come into that, I heard Mike Wilson talking about on a panel the other day, about finance, and I suppose using the barriers to finance for those small medium enterprises, and less around the grant piece and more around, I suppose, banks and others financing this type of automation because of the payback that it helps within industry.
Yeah, no, thanks. They're all things that we see in our members see. So that's really interesting. So let's go to Andy. What do you think the barriers are?
Yeah, I think, the skill set shortage, in the market, and again, funding. I mean, I think, our approach is really sort of a real world approach. When we're talking to OEM machine builders, the typical first points of discussion are about the unmet needs. And I would say, from an automation perspective, being in a position where we can, let's say, offer simple solutions for complex problems is exactly where we need to be. I mean, I think I agree. Let's say from a time frame and funding perspective, it's incredibly challenging in the market at the moment. So, and that is reflected, I think, in how the adoption is of robotics and automation across the space. But for us, we're committed to get into the market and tell our story and really focus on the unmet needs. So
yeah, okay, cool. So let's go to Anderson and James, please, for your thoughts.
It's a real challenge, as the gentleman just said, in terms of the barriers we're coming across are certainly high initial investment. In terms of everyone's looking for sustainability, energy efficiency. I think I read the other day in political news that our energy is 4 times the value of other countries, and so that is a real conflict, because people are recognizing we need to become more sustainable, we need to become more energy efficient. So going down the AI route and becoming more efficient is the direction they want to go. But of course, the investments, the infrastructure, having to there's skill shortages as well. There's a huge skills gap, which transitioning from smart automation demands new technical skills. A lot of people we're looking to hire. A lot of people are thinking going to robots, we're sort of de-skilling, and it's quite the opposite, really. We're creating more jobs with robotics coming into the industry. There's going to come a point where we need someone to maintain the robots, we need to program the robots. So there's that. So moving into that direction, then we've got the skills gap, because we've not got enough people coming through to be able to do that. So there's a real sort of balancing act. Anderson?
Yes, I agree with my colleague and other colleagues as well. For example, knowledge it's a big barrier, because sometimes to change is not easy, right? You need to understand, you need to stop to learn, you need to take time to be patient. And it's not just when you talk about technology. Sometimes you need to convince another departments, like purchasing departments, to buy new solutions, but they don't know exactly how to compare the old solution with the new solution. And sometimes to do it is not easy. We need to understand the complete solution and explain the current application and the future application, what's the difference, and end of the day, where you save money, because every time we need to talk about money, right? For the OEMs, for the end users. So, and to do it, to convince another department, to convince the end users where we can save time, where we can save money, and how to do it. I think this is one big barrier to put everyone together on the same page.
Confidence is key, and that's
no, I agree. And then finally, Rich.
Well, it's difficult to go last because I think an awful lot of what I was going to say has been said. But
you went first last time.
Yeah, exactly. But picking up on what my fellow panelists have said, I think we talk about skills, we talk about barriers, we talk about funding gaps. AI has the potential to support in all of those areas, but what we see in the adoption, if I talk specifically about AI, is that reluctance of people to embrace it. If you look at your own lives, people fiddle around with ChatGPT and others, but it's really that understanding of what it can do. From an engineering perspective, there is a real concern that it's going to remove more skills and control away from engineers, where actually, I think if we as a group of engineering people embrace AI, actually, it can certainly help with a lot of those skills gaps and a lot of time and barriers to cost as well.
Yeah, and I agree with all of you. I think there's a piece that we need to do as Automate UK on what is actually AI within manufacturing and engineering, because I don't think people quite understand yet what it actually is and what it can do. So with all of this AI and all this smart technology, so the next question is cybersecurity standards are changing. We're in the middle of massive changes at the moment, and this, we can't go into too much depth with this, but what do you think are the main areas that manufacturers need to be aware of and be prepared for? And let's go to Anderson and James for that one first.
Yeah. So let's start. So to talk about cybersecurity, sometimes it's looks like one complex thing, but what I use it to say about it is, for example, we have a nice portfolio for network switches. So what I use it to explain to the customer is the first step is to learn about the application, to understand about the sensitive information, the sensitive sensors about the application, and then we can plan a nice infrastructure that we can plan the correct network topology. So there are big and complex subject about that, but what we can do is to support the customer in our field how to do the first steps, because when you're talking about network topology, it's difficult to discuss with just one partner. So we need to involve different areas and then discuss and create one plan to do it.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's go back to Rich.
Let me unmute. So it might be a bit of a long answer, but that's because actually it's probably the biggest topic that I talk about. So first of all, I don't think there's a real understanding of how 62443, the cyber standard, NIS2, which is the implementation part, and the change from the machinery directive to the machinery regulation are really linked. There's a lot of gaps in individuals' knowledge about actually, so we're aware of those three things in isolation, but not necessarily the interconnections between them. So most are aware that the machinery regulation is out, and we will move now in a transition period. Implementation is January 2027. That allows you to effectively CE mark a machine. Now, after that date, you've got to be able to make a claim to comply with the cyber standard. A lot of people are not aware of that change. That's quite fundamental, back to the part that was talked about by Mer. Implementation of networks, managed switches is a huge part of that whole machine. And a lot of people are not aware of potentially what they need to consider and how they need to comply with that when they're going to put a machine onto the market after January 2027. Additionally, typically most OEMs sell a machine and that's it. Some have a service relationship, quite a lot don't. The new way that the machinery regulation is coming now is that you are effectively, in 62443, you are inextricably linked. You as the OEM, the machine builder, have to keep an understanding of what hardware was put on what machine. And then if there is a vulnerability published, and as part of our compliance as manufacturers to 62443, we have to publish vulnerabilities. So Siemens is one of the first to do this, but actually, you can go and find product cert, register for that. Every time we publish a vulnerability, you get an email. As the OEM, you have to effectively make that information available. You've either got to email your customers or provide that information on a website, so that if there's an issue, then it's patched. So there's a huge amount of work that people need to consider now. It's not just build a machine and sell it. It's an understanding of the hardware that was on there, and over its life cycle, what potential patches need to be added.
Yeah, no, it's a big change, that, isn't it? So over to Quinton.
Yeah, I think following on from Rich, essentially the main problem with it is as factories start to become more smart, that means supposedly you're getting more data out of the machines that you're looking at, which then is resulting in, I suppose, opening up the plant to the world. I think 2023, the manufacturing industry was the most attacked industry for cyber attacks in the past number of years. It was financial services last year, but before that, I think that's what people don't realize, that it is a massive thing. And as we're starting to automate and move towards increased data being fed from machines and increased data from factories and moving towards that AI and OT for wider operations, I think it's something that needs to be massively considered. As I say, Schneider are delving into it massively. We've got cybersecurity teams now looking across the board at each individual part of our components, whether that be software or hardware. But yeah, as I say, I think the main things are digitalization and regulation is what people need to be considering. And as Rich said, the kind of interconnectedness between those.
Yeah, what's interesting, I've seen stats, maybe the number of actual attacks on OT on the shop floor isn't huge, but the effects of them are massive. You get one small attack and it shuts down multiple sites. And then we all know how much it costs for a manufacturing line to lose production. It builds up and builds up and builds up. So yeah, no, it's something we really need to watch out for. So Andy, finally.
Yeah, I mean, I think I concur with the other panelists. I mean, I think the 62443 is, we work with that anyway for hardware, software, R&D. So we all need to be able to demonstrate that we understand what we're doing in that space. But I think, for me at the moment, with so many connected devices now, there's a lot more opportunity now, to penetrate networks and, and do some damage. So I think, with, I guess TCP, IP networks are the primary target at the moment, but there's other things to consider as well, like on-premise attacks as well, which is an interesting topic. But I think for us as a business moving forward, working in a collaborative way with the market and helping our clients with their cybersecurity strategies, so we fully understand what the situation is paramount at the end of the day. But currently, we do offer products which our clients can use for secure connection at the moment. So, so again, it's a really interesting topic.
Yeah. I think we really do barely scratch the surface on it. It's something that we really need to be aware of today. So we're starting to get towards the end of the questions, but we've got one more. We've got two more actually, if we have time. But so we're coming up to Automation UK on the 7th and 8th of May. We can't say it enough. So to each of you, what highlights are you bringing to the show, and why should people attend? So let's go straight back in with Andy on that one.
Yeah, we're at stand E62. We're going to be showcasing. So half of what Sigmatech do is customized. So we embed ourselves with the OEM, and so we work between, let's say, the standard industrial space and the custom automation space. So, and we've developed a platform called XDIAS, and this really takes the industrial automation element into the board, where we can interact with standard automation technology and custom technology. So we're going to be highlighting that. We've got our wireless HMI with integrated safety. So we're going to be showing that at the moment. So that product itself is incredibly attractive, where you've got a long production line and you want to look at what's going on around that production line, and you don't want to have the HMI just, you know, statically placed. We've got our web-based visualization. Our SDIAS motor output stages we'll be doing, and we'll be showing LaSalle, which is our single software tool.
Cool, brilliant. Look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, great.
So yeah, we will be there. So Rich, what are you bringing, and what do you think of the show?
Hardware and expertise. So we've got an expert. So we're going to cover cyber, as we talked about today. You know, cyber is quite a significant topic. So we're going to cover that. We've got a keynote speaker as well from Ben. We're also bringing a couple of different AI camera solutions. So Inspecto and Pick AI Pro, both of which are effectively AI based. So the whole reason that they're AI based is that you don't have to go through a learning profile with them. They're quite different in terms of their applications, one for product inspections, one's for actually moving product around. But the big thing is it's embracing AI so that you don't have to go through the typical teach scenarios. You go through quite a very quick setup for both of them. Additionally, we're going to bring in AGV. So we've launched a platform for standard Siemens hardware built into an OEM's own mechanical build. So that's got free navigation capability.
Excellent, great. Again, another one we look forward to seeing. Let's go to Quinton. What's Schneider bringing?
Yeah, so as I say, we've got a lot of our kind of new hardware on the stand. Obviously, from my side, we've just released a new SCAR robot, which is going to be on the stand as well. And then a lot of the things that we've kind of talked about today. So our digital twin, and a kind of heavy focus on our EcoStruxure automation expert, which is our software-centric kind of automation ecosystem, as well as TSYS Island, our Monicon Edge IO, and our multi-carrier. So there's going to be a lot of demos on the stand, and I'm also doing a keynote speech on the 7th around rethinking robotics and kind of robotics and sustainability and the wider infrastructure.
Cool, brilliant. And then finally, James Anderson.
Yes, so we'll be there. We're excited to be there. We're on stand C50, and it's a big year for us. We're celebrating our 50th year as an organisation, so we're really trying to make an impact. We've got one of our specialists, our vision specialist, coming over from Germany, who'll be alongside myself and Anderson on the stand, and we'll be exhibiting quite an array of products, but really sort of pushing the cabinet-free automation Vario X product, which is our sort of flagship product at the moment, which is really sort of designed in and around sort of predictive maintenance, optimizing efficiency and performance, removing the need for a panel. So using sort of AI technology.
Perfect. Yeah. I love the technology. So I use it to say, I will bring some toys with me, and then the customer will be able to see the product working, to test, to do everything there.
Yeah, I like to see you got flashing lights behind you. You always need flashing lights. This brings them in.
If any of you are in Manchester on a Friday afternoon, you can often, it's a disco in Anderson's office. Please feel free.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Right, so we're nearly at the end. I'm just going to ask one question, but I'm going to ask it to everybody rather than individually, and jump in if you can answer this, because I know we had a quick chat about this, and sometimes it's difficult with NDAs in place. But does anybody have a case study or an example from the last year really showing the benefits of the adoption of smart technologies? Anybody got any sort of like things that have really stood out to them from the recent year? Just dive in, please. Or not? That's fine.
Go on, I'll go. So actually, it's one of the bits of solution that we bring into the show. So effectively, Pick AI Pro has been installed in quite a few installations across Europe and in the UK. So what it allows you to effectively do, as I sort of alluded to earlier, is take a range of cameras, non-Siemens cameras. It's our AI platform. So it's an IPC running an AI algorithm in the background that takes the vision in and then sends that to coordinates for a robot. So effectively what it does, without any pre-training, you can, not anything, but not far off anything you can put in front of it and it will pick it up. Obviously, it's limited by weight, it's limited by gripper form, but those are all interchangeable. So the whole idea is that without any pre-training, you can pick a product up and move it. So in intralogistics, it's significantly improved the level of picks. So up to 1,000, 1,200 an hour on a guarded robot cell. So that's one example of, I think, smart technology where it's about embracing that technology and that, back to the piece we talked about, everything else, that whole ROI piece. How do you now prove and demonstrate? So what we're doing is pushing Pick AI Pro into installations where you've got a very varied level of product that comes through, where ordinarily the training for that would be quite significant. We can now move that far faster.
Cool, brilliant. No, that sounds cool. Anybody else got anything from the last year?
Yeah, we've mentioned the Vario X, which is our cabinet-free IPC. It's at the back here, but that was demonstrated at the show. But it's what MER's vision is in terms of going cabinet-free, removing the need for a panel. So essentially, you've got a box that has everything included, from the IPC to the power supplies, 48, 24 volts, the safety integrated, and the application we've been using sort of in the automotive sector is replacing pneumatic clamps with electric clamps. So again, in the nature of sustainability, efficiency, performance, this product is we've seen success in that sort of clamping sort of area, where customers, particularly in the automotive sector, they're looking to you have cleaner energy. The cost of air is very, very expensive, and of course the infrastructure is quite significant. So we're reducing that with our sort of footprint. Anderson, anything?
Yeah, you are perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the entire solution, and so we bring the product there, and the visitors can have a look and see the product.
Yeah, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of new products in that panel. This machine design now, isn't there? There's quite a few on the market now. It's really, really, really interesting space. So Quinton and Andy, have you got anything?
Yeah, there's something, as I say, I've been speaking internally about. We're a kind of success story from the dairy industry this year in Wales, where, as I say, we managed to, it's a complete turnkey solution in collaboration with GMAC and Morrison Projects. We've basically made it completely net zero water and give it that kind of registration of net zero plus water as well. So not only is it producing 600 tons of milk a day, but it's actually cleaning water and producing that on the far side as well. So using those interactive tools and kind of smart manufacturing across the board, we've managed to achieve that. As I say, obviously sustainability is a massive focus for Schneider. Schneider, most sustainable company in the world. Yeah. That's how we're kind of directing in automation. And as I say, the keynote speech that I'm giving at Automate is around that piece, and as I say, specifically around robotics and automation as well.
Oh, so that'll be interesting to go and watch then, and listen to. Andy, no pressure. Have you got anything?
Yeah, it was just really more emphasis on the XDIS. I think, with automated machines becoming more complex, cabinet space is a premium. And I think, the implementation of XDIS limits so much wiring. It comes down to, the automation solution. So again, working directly with OEMs, we're proposing this for, let's say across the industry space, where we can work in a collaborative way and, help the client, fulfill their requirements and, and get ahead with a custom solution. So that's where we are.
Cool. Really Great. So yeah, thank you to all of you for answering those questions. We've got one come through from the listeners, but if anyone else has got any questions, please send them to us. So we've got one here, and this is probably for everybody as well. So this is from Gary Livingston. How do you react to the opinion that barriers are an excuse for bad business models and the lack of leadership? And whoever wants to jump in first, I'm not gonna.
Interesting. Actually, you know what? I'd probably say I agree. I think sometimes the challenge of change is not change itself. And what do I mean by that? I think sometimes it's more comfortable to do nothing. The safest thing that some people think is to do nothing, but actually, as a leader, you know, we're within Siemens, we're constantly pushed to evolve. We're constantly pushed to, you know, have new skills, made sure that you've got relevancy for the market that you're in. So yeah, I think, you know, if you're sat there in a leadership position, you've got to be aware of what's going on. You know, the UK, let's be honest, is not seen as, you know, potentially the greatest innovator. We're not seen as that really big leading pioneer. If you go and look at any of the studies around the adoption of robotics, for example, you know, the UK is well down against pretty much any other country. And I think that's sometimes down to a lack of vision in investment. It's a tough call, you know, to go and make investment, and you've got to be sure that investment's going to pay off. But I think anything that can improve your, as we spoke about, sustainability as a business, but also the solutions that you're putting out there in terms of sustainability, you've got to be fit for the future. So yeah, I'd probably say I agree.
Cool, thank you. Anybody else?
I'd kind of echo what Richard says a little bit. As I say, I've coming from an OEM and, as I say, an automation supplier before that. I think across the board, what I've seen in terms of UK attitudes towards automation, it tends to be you go to Germany or you go to Japan and they want to show you their newest machine. In the UK, it's a case of we've had this machine working since the Industrial Revolution, and they're very proud of that. And I think that is the attitude and that is the knowledge that kind of needs to change. And the companies that are excelling at that are the people that are adopting the new technology and, I suppose, being open to learning what's new. As Richard said, change is scary. I think you wouldn't be human if you weren't scared of change. And I think the best way to adopt that is, I suppose, reaching out to people like ourselves and companies like ourselves where we can start to guide you on that journey.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I absolutely agree. I think challenges, barriers, it opens up opportunity, doesn't it? And I think, you know, I know sort of Richard and, you know, Quentin, I agree with everything they're saying. And our idea is, you know, we appreciate we come across barriers with customers on a regular basis and obstructions, you know, whether it be costs or whether it be infrastructure. But the idea is that we can listen to what the customers looking to achieve and offer them a solution that, you know, perhaps is not quite where they want to be, but helping them, guiding them in the right direction. And I think that's key for all of us today, is to work with the customer and help them sort of work their way through the journey. You know, they can't go straight from A to Z. We have to sort of hold their hand through it.
I think the challenge is you don't know what you don't know, do you? So I think you know, working with these guys in a collaborative way, you know, to help them learn and understand what is actually available, you know, that's got to be the starting point, because at some point they're going to have to do it anyway. That's the nature of the way that things are going, isn't it? So
I mean, to add, sorry, go for Anson.
Comment, sorry. But what I used to do when I found some barriers, I try to get some small tests, but we need to start small. Let's simulate one small application, or let's test one simple application, and then the customer can start to be confident. And sometimes what I try to do is, if you do it, you be the first. And so when the customer is playing with us, trying to learn, trying to do something different in one small sample or in one small test, so we can create confidence, and then we can go ahead, because it's not easy to change, as our colleague said before.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. I think that echoes a lot of what we see at Automate, and what we see is like almost sometimes the lack of long-term planning, the fact that finances, return on investment is very much focused on short term. I think people need to have a long-term plan. They need to think 5 to 10 years ahead. And then they need to also think on your total cost of ownership, and not just on what's the price today. It's actually what's the cost of this machine over long term, and where do we want to be, and what do we need to get there. And as you said, Anderson, start small. It's so easy to start with a small piece of automation that eventually becomes part of your production line, and get some confidence with it. And that could be quite low cost. Thank you ever so much. We've not had any more questions come on, so thank you, Gary, for asking that. I think that's really started off a really nice little conversation there at the end. So all we can say is please join us at Automation UK on the 7th and 8th of May. I'll say it again. Tickets are free. We will send you an email follow-up. Oh, we've just had another one pop through, so I'll come back to that. We will send you an email with some links for you to register on. So please have a look at that when that comes through. There will be a request for some feedback. Please fill it in. And if you have any specific questions for the panelists, please write it, put it in there. But if you put your email address on that as well, we can make sure we can get it to them and they can come back to you directly. So just before we go, we do have 4 minutes. Pablo, I'm sorry, I'm not going to try and pronounce your surname because I will just mess it up. Jaramillo, probably wrong, I apologize. But can you summarize what are the best applications for machine learning and AI in robotics and automation? What is a simple application that is a complex, and what is a complex application? I think I know what I would answer, but if anybody wants to dive in quickly with that before the end, that would be great.
I think my answer would be, I think it's going to be longer than 3 minutes. I listened, you know what, without a massive another plug for the show, I would urge you to come to the show. I think you'll get the answers to that from the panelists and more. And I think it's
cool, good.
It needs to be a real conversation. It's not a simple, broad brush. I would argue pretty much anything can be done under machine learning. Anything where you want to gain information out of data. Most machines are very data rich, information poor. But that's probably a bit of a kind of a very, very summary question or answer, sorry.
Cool, thank you, Rich. I mean, all I would say for me, what always amazes me, and this is not necessarily a direct answer, is anything with vision on. Yeah. It amazes me that you put a camera in, and the camera's a bit of hardware, but then the analysis and now with the AI behind actually working on that image that it brings in is a really big, strong area for AI, and really strong area for machine learning and actually driving a machine. It is like the eyes to the product. And actually Rich used that as an example earlier. And yeah, that's one area for me. Is there anything else from Andy, Anderson, or Quinton? Or
I think there's the bare bones of basic robotic applications where you're talking pick and place. As I say, I used to work for a vision company as well, so I could see that as being a major thing. But it's a case of having the basics of your simple applications, and then the wider bolt-ons of that. It's like, are you looking at the predictive maintenance of that particular robot cell? Are you looking at wider software? Are you looking at energy consumption? Or are you looking at movement? Are you looking at the readout from the camera? That there's so much. But as I say, whenever you're talking, I think it's probably based on what we'd said earlier about simple or complex. I think you can start with the basics and then start to build up from that. So the basic is your operation, picking and placing from one location to another. Get the robot to do that initially, and then build out from there. Do you want some more data from that? What's your failure rate? How much energy is that consuming? And I think that there's so much that you can do from the bare bones up, and it's not a case of building a cell that's going to sit in a corner and do repetitive process again and again. It's wider than that now.
Thank you, Quinton. Anybody else? I mean, the only other thing I would say is that the other thing I see is it doesn't have to be complex. You don't need to be putting a load of sensors on your system. There are some sensors, some very complex and very important sensors you can put on systems that really enhance, but you don't need to do it. You don't need to throw them at your machine. There's a lot of products. There's the servo drives, for example. The data you can get from servo drives now is excellent. It's massive, and that you can do all of that without actually having to put almost anything extra in. It's just some code to bring it out and bring it up to the up into your cloud or up into your system. So yeah, you can start really easy, and there's a lot to be won and gained from it quite easily without having to put in lots of specialist equipment. So I think I waffled a little bit then, so I apologize for that. So if nobody's got anything else to say, I'd just like to say thank you to all of you for joining us, to the panelists, and thank you to everyone, all of the attendees who have joined us. It's been a really great turnout. Thank you ever so much. And please come along to Automation UK. I think we're all there, so you should be able to find us. Come and say hi to us, and we can have a chat about what we think on smart automation and manufacturing moving forward. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of your day, and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, bye.